Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Paddy O'Keefe Centre for Innovation in Grassland and Dairying Research here in Teagasc Moor Park, County Cork. My name is Pádraig Walsh, and I'm chairman of the Grass 10 programme, which is run from Moor Park here. The objective of Grass 10, when it was set up 4 years ago, was to achieve 10 tonnes of grass utilised per hectare throughout the country, and also 10 grazings per year. It is sponsored by the Department of Agriculture, Allied Irish Banks, FBD Insurance, the Farmers Journal, Grassland Agro, and Teagasc itself. As a board member of FBD Insurance, we are delighted to be involved in this project, which helps our most important customers, farmers, to get the most from grass as a valuable resource on their farms throughout the country. We are also delighted in FBD to say that we're prepared to sponsor this programme for another 4 years, and let's hope we make even more progress over the next 4 years. All the other sponsors have also agreed to continue their sponsorship. Grass 10 has made fantastic progress over the last 4 years, and I'd like to thank people like John Marr and his team, John Douglas, Joe Dunphy and Fergus Bogue, who unfortunately has left us now, for their hard work. And I'd also like to thank the Teagasc backup team under Pat Dillon, Michael O'Donovan, Micheál O'Leary and Pasture Base, which has become a fantastic resource. And also all the other members of the steering group, which helps us to run the Grass 10 programme. At this stage, I'd like to introduce Minister for Agriculture, Charlie McConalogue, to address the meeting before we announce the results of the Grassland Farmer of the Year competition for 2020, which is the main reason why we're here today.
Ladies and gentlemen, Teagasc Chairman and Director, colleagues and invited guests, thank you for the invitation to the Grassland Farmer of the Year Award ceremony for 2020. I thank all those involved in the awards, AIB, Teagasc, FBD, the Irish Farmers Journal, Grassland Agro, and indeed my own department for ensuring that the awards can take place. Unfortunately, with ongoing COVID-19 restrictions, we cannot gather in person to acknowledge and congratulate the achievements in grassland management of our 15 finalists. 2020 was a difficult and worrying year for farmers, not least from the challenges faced from COVID and Brexit. On Brexit, after what was a long and protracted negotiation process, I'm delighted the EU and UK signed a free trade agreement on Christmas Eve. The free trade agreement is of huge benefit to our farmers and wider agri-sector, primarily in the avoidance of what would have been very damaging tariffs in the event of a no deal. The potential for tariffs of up to $1.5 billion on agri-food trade between Ireland and Great Britain had been a shared concern for me as Minister and for stakeholders right across the agri-food sector. So it is welcome that such an outcome has been avoided. Since the start of the pandemic, the agri-food sector, which is critical to maintaining food supply chains, from farm inputs to retail distribution, has demonstrated its resilience. Activity within the sector was deemed essential, and there was very little disruption to national production. Our farmers, fishers, drinks manufacturers and processors ensured that our shelves were stocked and food kept on our kitchen tables. We cannot take this success for granted. It was a remarkable achievement given all the disruption we experienced. I thank you all for the continued efforts in this regard. Turning back to today's event, I'm pleased to see the Pasture-Based Ireland grass growth curve has shown that grass growth for 2020 was in line with that of 2019, which was considered a very good year for grass growth. It will have given farmers the opportunity to replenish much-needed stocks of fodder. I would like to acknowledge and thank the panel of judges for their work in putting this competition together. It's not an easy task at the best of times to coordinate visits, especially when the judges are all working across a broad spectrum of different areas in Irish agriculture. In 2017, the Grass 10 campaign was launched. Since then, it has seen the number of farmers using Pasture-Based Ireland increase from 2,393 to 3,664 in 2020, And those farmers participating in the Grass 10 courses have improved grassland management skills and increased dry matter yields on their own farms, which is both profitable and sustainable. There has been a significant increase in soil fertility over the 4 years of the programme, with P&K and soil pH levels improving. This increase in competitiveness is estimated by Teagasc to benefit dairy farmers by €173 a hectare for each additional tonne of grass dry matter utilised, and €105 a hectare for dry stock farmers. A substantial challenge still exists in balancing all the aspects of agricultural sustainability, including the requirement to provide quality food and to ensure farmers' incomes, as well as to address the environmental challenges of climate and biodiversity. As part of our acclimatised roadmap, chemical fertiliser usage on Irish farms needs to reduce. As a result, farmers will need to optimise nutrient management planning to make better use of chemical and organic nutrients, with significant improvement in our use of slurry. In practice, this will mean making use of low-emission slurry spreading technology, an expanded programme of liming to improve nutrient use efficiency, and including clover and other mixed species in pasture reseeds. It is clear that initiatives such as the Grass 10 and PBI are to the fore in helping farmers achieve the most they can from the natural resource they have on their farm, which is grass. I consider good grassland management to be essential in delivering our targets set down in the acclimatised roadmap. Indeed, our own department variety trials on grass and white clover have shown that comparable dry matter yields can be achieved from clover swards at relatively low chemical nitrogen inputs. Clover will now have to be brought more central to our grassland systems. This will be a challenge, but it is one we are well equipped to rise to. The successes of our finalists have shown us what can be achieved. To the finalists, whoever is lucky enough to win this award, you are joining a group of top-class farmers who are previous winners. Brian Daniels, John McNamara and Eddie O'Donnell have proven themselves to be great grass ambassadors, and I know today's winner will continue this fine tradition. Both I and my department are pleased to be associated with this competition. I would once again like to congratulate all involved in the competition, particularly the finalists. They are indeed our grassland ambassadors. We look forward to hearing your experiences and stories of how you manage your grassland throughout 2021. I hope that we can look forward to a more positive 2021 with a coordinated vaccine rollout programme in full swing. I believe that we are at the beginning of the end of the COVID-19 global pandemic. Again, I wish you well for the year ahead, and hopefully next year will be an opportunity to return to an in-person presentation. Once again, best wishes to all who have taken part, and my sincerest congratulations to this year's winner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister McConaughey, and I'd also like to thank his department for their important sponsorship of the Grassland Farmer of the Year Awards for the last 4 years. At this stage, I would like to introduce Professor Jerry Boyle, who will launch the Grass 10 report for the last 4 years, 2017 to 2020.
Thanks, Pádraig, and it's my great privilege as Director of Teagasc to launch the Grass 10 report, which covers, as Pádraig said, the first 4 years of the Grass 10 programme. And I want to first acknowledge the authors of this excellent report: John Maher, Michael O'Donovan, Michael O'Leary, Pat Dillon, Joseph Dunphy, and John Douglas. I'd also like to mention the role of Tom Dwyer had in the early stages of setting up the design of Grass 10. Over the last 4 years, we've benefited from the collaboration of several farmers and colleagues within Teagasc, both advisors and researchers. And last year, because of the difficulties of COVID, we benefited hugely from former Grassland winners, or Grassland of the Year winners, in promoting the message of good grassland management on Twitter. And I'd like to particularly mention Brian Daniels, Paddy O'Brien, Trevor Boland, Mike Birmingham, and John Trant. And several farmers over the years facilitated focus events on their farms, for which we're very appreciative. Our advisors and researchers organised 42 training courses in the period 2019 to 20. And over 100 videos were produced promoting the message of good grassland management that enjoyed 94,000 viewers. And we also had, and I'm sure you're very familiar with, a series of excellent podcasts that promoted the message of good grassland management. Grass production, as this report sets out very clearly, is key to Ireland's comparative advantage as a food exporter. And one key message that jumps out of this report, I think, really emphasizes the importance of good grassland management from a cost competitiveness point of view. And that is that every extra ton of grass that's utilized per hectare is worth €173 per hectare on a dairy farm, and in excess of €100 per hectare on a dry stock farm. And to emphasize the critical financial benefits of good grassland management, another point that comes out of this report is those farmers that participated in the grass management training courses were able to achieve an additional 1.8 tons per hectare of grass utilization on their farms. And that is worth substantial additional margin to those farms. And I would like to also emphasize, of course, that at the core of the Grass 10 programme is Pasture Base Ireland. And it's important to understand that this is a component part of Teagasc's advisory services. If you subscribe to Teagasc as a farmer client, you're entitled to enroll on Pasture Base Ireland, and there is no additional charge. For that, you can access an entire network of advisory, research, and peer farmer supports. There have been a number of developments since the establishment of the Grass 10 programme that are worth mentioning. Pasture Base Ireland now has a fantastic data hub for key information to enable better decision making on farms. We now have milk data that's assembled from over 13 co-ops. We have fertilizer information and soil fertility data. We've also developed a Pasture Base Ireland app, which facilitates flexible and responsive delivery of key advisory messages. And that was never more evident than in the 2018 drought. I'm convinced in time that Pasture Base Ireland, and indeed the app, will enable data-driven advice that will allow remote consultations between the farmer and advisor, never more important than in the current COVID climate. We've also, of course, developed a highly innovative tool to enable grass growth prediction. And this is a unique Ireland-France partnership. The program is a pilot one at present, but it forms the basis of the grass prediction forecasts that are published by Met Éireann every Sunday. And our plan is to extend that facility to enable farmers to predict grass growth on their own farms over the next couple of years. In conclusion, I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that we had last year about 3,670 farms using Pasture Base Ireland, and they averaged about 19 grass covers measurements per year. This was a big increase on the first year of Grass 10. And of course, it's a very welcome increase. However, it's fair to say that we would like to see those numbers significantly increased over the next 4 years, and particularly on dry stock farms, where there are substantial profits to be generated and achieved by using optimal grassland management. And the other point I think that's important to emphasize as we look to the future is that we're going to have to produce additional grass using much lower levels of chemical nitrogen if we are to combat the environmental challenges that we face. And we can do that, of course, by increasing our use of clover and by improving nitrogen use efficiency through enhancing soil fertility and through using less technologies and ensuring that our lime status is adequate. So with those few remarks, I'd like to hand you back to Pádraig.
Thank you very much, Professor Boyle. And indeed, I'd like to endorse the Grass 10 report for the last 4 years. And I think the point that Professor Boyle made there about the importance of pasture base as a resource, I think it's huge, and the potential is huge. So we need to expand that as much as possible, and also try and get as much grassland technology as possible onto dry stock farms to help the profitability on those farms. At this stage, I'd like to introduce Liam Wolfe from Grassland Agro, and after him, Donal Welton, Head of Agriculture in Allied Irish Banks, who are co-sponsors of this project. And when Donal finishes, I'll hand you over to John Maher and Aidan Brennan, who will take you through the finalists of this year's Grassland Farmer of the Year competition.
My name is Liam Wolfe from Grassland Agro. Grassland Agro have been involved in Grass 10 for the last 4 years, and we're really, really pleased with what we've learned from it, and indeed what everybody has learned from it. It has been a very good experience. I suppose today is a day for the award winners, but just to say, I suppose when we started off this, there was a lot of growth, and there was a lot of milk production growth and output and all the kind of thing, and the focus was very, very singularly on grass and effectiveness of grass as a main priority. The priorities of the next 4 years, which we are looking forward to as well, are going to change to being more reflective of the environmental requirements nowadays, and also climate change targets of government and of everybody that is associated with farming. But that's going to be very exciting also. To Teagasc and to John in particular for doing such a great job in keeping us all policed and keep the professionalism centre stage to everything they're doing. I want to say a great big thank you. And lastly, I just want to say to the award winners, congratulations, well done during the very difficult, challenging period of the pandemic, both to you and indeed to the judges for the excellent work they did. Thanks very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Donal Welton is my name, and on behalf of AIB, I'd like to congratulate all the Grass 10 Grassland of the Year finalists. You and your families should be very proud of your achievements. As a leading lender to the sector, we in AIB recognise the role that we have to play in supporting our customers as they develop and enhance their businesses in a sustainable manner, not only for themselves, but also for future generations. Our message to farmers has been consistently to invest in assets that deliver the most for you, and certainly investing in grassland measurement and utilisation falls within that criteria. Finally, I'd like to thank John Maher and his Grass 10 colleagues for all their hard work in delivering on Phase 1 of the Grass 10 programme. We in AIB are certainly looking forward in continuing our association with this initiative and continuing working with the Grass 10 programme over the next 4 years throughout Phase 2. Lastly, I'd like to congratulate again all the finalists, and in these COVID-19 impacted times, wish you and your families a healthy, safe and prosperous 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. John Maher is my name, and I am the manager of the Grass 10 campaign. I'm also a member of the judging panel for the Grassland Farmer of the Year Awards 2020, and I'm joined on the podium here today by fellow judge Aidan Brennan from the Farmers Journal. So our plan is to take you through the award ceremony for the next 45 minutes, and we are going to begin with the judges' report from Aidan here. We visit the farm as a group of judges in the late autumn of 2020, and Aidan's going to outline our findings on those visits to those farms. Then we will enter into a brief overview of all the 15 finalists before we can begin the awards proper. So over to you, Aidan.
Thank you, John, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm here today to speak on behalf of the judging committee. and that judging committee is made up of the programme sponsors for Grass 10. So we have PJ O'Connor from Grassland Agro, Brian Ducey from EIB, John Maher from Teagasc, myself representing the Irish Farmers Journal, Kieran Roach representing FBD Insurance, and Liz Hyland representing the Department of Agriculture. And we're pictured there on the farm of Thomas Hogan, one of the finalists in the Grassland Farmer of the Year competition this year. Of course, that was a socially distanced photograph. I suppose we get a lot of questions about what we were marking farmers on. And there are 3 areas to the marking scheme. The first is measurement, then what I call management, and then sustainability. In terms of measurement, this is data that can be measured on pasture-based Ireland, such as the amount of grass grown, the number of measurements, etc. Management then refers to what the farmer is doing him or herself. So in terms of their way they manage soil fertility, fertilizer, reseeding, etc. And then the all-important area of sustainability. So what they're doing in relation to the environment, such as the role of clover, protected urea, low-emission slurry spreading, etc. There's equal marks for each section. So while it's fair to say production in terms of grass growth or number of measurements has a role to play, there's only 1/3 of the marks going for that. So how the farmer is managing his soil fertility and how they look after sustainability has a big part to play also, which tends to level the playing field somewhat. I suppose to move on to some of the findings that we found while judging this year. The 2019 data was used in pasture-based for the pre-selection of the finalists. So obviously we walked farms in 2020, so total tonnage for 2020 wouldn't be available, so we used 2019 data. One thing we found is that many new entrants, not just in terms of dairy entrants, but beef farmers as well. There was a lot of younger farmers entering the competition this year, and a lot of new entrants to farming in general. A big focus on protecting the environment. That's evident throughout, and we'll see more of that, I think, as we go through this session. And a lot more farmers are recording their nutrient inputs on pasture-based Ireland, which is good to see as well. In summary, of the 15 finalists, average grass production was 14.5 tonnes per hectare, which is very high. They had an average of 42 measurements per farm, which again is a very high figure. And overall output, both in terms of milk solids and meat, was a little short of a tonne per hectare. Over to you, John.
So now myself and Aidan will take you through an overview of each of the 15 finalists, and Aidan's going to start with the dairy finalists, and then I will continue with some of the remaining dairy finalists and the dry stock finalists. So Aidan, the first dairy finalist, if that's all right.
Thanks, John. Our first finalist is John Galvin, who's farming along with his wife Yvonne near Dunmanway in County Cork. Nestled between mountains and bog, the Galvin farm is one of the most picturesque farms we visited on our tour. John is milking Jersey crossbred cows and supplies milk to Dairy Gold Co-op. He has a particular focus on the environment. He's a member of GLAS, and he also takes part in the Caha River project, which is part of the ASSET programme. Moving on to Piltown in County Kilkenny, we visited Shane Kinsella. Shane is a new entrant to dairy farming, and he milks about 90 cows in a high input system while making as much use of grass as possible. This is a challenging farm, rising to about 1,000 feet above sea level. But Shane makes the most of it with excellent grazing infrastructure. By far the best infrastructure we would have seen on our judging, with excellent access from roadways and multiple access points throughout. Our next visit is to Clonmel in County Tipperary to the farm managed by Graham Swanton. With over 700 cows, this was by far the largest farm we looked at in the competition. The herd of Jersey crossbred cows are exceptionally well managed by the farm team. It's one of the highest grass growing farms in the competition, growing over 17 tonnes this year. And it was also interesting to know that he had a high amount of clover in his swards, which is very nice to see, and definitely contributing to the fact that he's growing so much grass. And it's also important to note that this farm had the best soil fertility of all the farms we looked at. Moving to the west of Ireland, Niall Cannon's farm was a joy for the judges to visit. It was very much different to the rest of them in terms of he hadn't the same natural advantages that maybe some of the other farms had. It's a difficult farm in the sense that the soils are very variable, moving from very dry, free-draining soils near the farmyard towards, peaty soils, some of them prone to flooding. So a lot of variation here, but again, soil fertility was brilliant. As you can see in the maps that he has, where green is good. So most of the paddocks on the Callan farm are excellent for soil fertility. Our next contestant is a proud West Cork woman. She started farming in her own right on leased land in 2009. She milked 72 cows in 2020. And the farm was converted to dairy, where she's now the farm was converted to dairy in 2015 from beef. Caroline's focus has been on improving grass growth and grass utilisation. She has invested heavily in grazing infrastructure, improving her genetics, and on running a simple and time-efficient farm. She's working hard to increase the proportion of clover in the farm, and Caroline achieved the most number of grazings of any farmer in the competition. Our next contestant is Noel Hurley, a dairy farmer nestled between the Ballyhora Mountains and the village of Farrahy in North Cork. Originally, Noel is from West Cork, but moved to Mallow about 20 years ago to manage a farm. He started farming then in his own right, from humble beginnings, and this year will milk over 200 cows on his own home-owned farm. So it's excellent achievement for someone without a farm to begin with. The Noel's farm is not a simple farm to work, but he makes the most of it, and he's made fierce strides in grassland management over the last couple of years. Of particular note is his ability to reduce his reliance on chemical fertilizer in order to grow high quantities of grass. And Noel is a big fan of the grazing planner. Our next visit is to Mallow in County Cork, to the farm managed by John O'Connell, an entrant in the young farmer category. John is a young farm manager doing an excellent job on a leased farm. John's background is in dairy, and he gained lots of valuable experience while working in New Zealand. He came back to Ireland in 2018 and has been farm manager at the Ratduff farm for the last few years. The herd of high EBI, Jersey and crossbred cows produce 520 kilos of milk solids each from around 850 kilos of meal. Residuals were the best the judges have seen on the competition. Finally, for me, we go to Louth, and again to a young farmer, James Hoey, a new entrant to dairy farming and a man on a mission. The Hoey farm is by far one of the finest farms the judges have been on. A recent convert from tillage, James is milking almost 400 cows in a state-of-the-art facilities. A large central roadway provides excellent access to the cow paddocks, and the farm has benefits from a rotary parlour and top-class facilities. The farm grew an impressive 16.3 tonnes in 2020, despite a severe drought in the early spring. That's it. John, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Aidan. So I'm going to continue on with the young farmer category and start with David O'Leary, who farms near Castle Island, County Kerry. David is a very recent entrant to milk production, and again, like some of the other previous young farmer category finalists, it's a lease block of 32 hectares. 80 cows will be milked there in 2021. The land is mixed, and it is fair to say that, and there is some dry land and some heavier land on the farm, and the cows also have to cross a busy road. The cows are a young herd and delivered 440 kilograms of milk solids to Kerry Agribusiness. Like some of the previous finalists outlined by Aidan, there's been a very, very strong investment on this farm in terms of soil fertility, infrastructure and reseeding. And a lot of progress has been made very quickly on this farm. The soil fertility status is mostly 3s and 4s for P's and K's. The investment in infrastructure has been well targeted, which is quite common in parts of the country, and it's something that David has learned from fellow farmers. And you'll see there in the pictures of the spur roads put on the farm to gain access to grass during the difficult times during the year. And I suppose spring and autumn being those times. A lot of the farm has been reseeded. A third of the farm has been reseeded in a very short time. David has a keen interest in monocultures and has sown single varieties on many paddocks on the farm. And the picture in front of you shows the latest reseed, which is a paddock of Aston Energy close to the parlour. So I'm going to move on now to the heavy soil section. That's the young farmer category finished. And we have 2 finalists in this section of the competition in the heavy soils disadvantaged land section. So I'm going to start with Sean Barry from Palace Green, County Limerick, who farms with his father, Pat. This is a 70-cow dairy farm, and Sean has taken over the farm in the last few years. The land on this part of the farm, particularly around the parlour, is quite heavy. Sean has challenges with crossing roads on the farm. Some of that land that he crosses the road to is a bit drier, but when you get to the lower parts of that land, it is heavier. So there are challenges in terms of dealing with heavy land on this farm, as well as crossing roads, and some of those roads are quite busy, to say the least. But like the previous man, David, Sean has put a lot of investment into drainage and reseeding and soil fertility. The farm consistently grows now 13 or 14 tonnes, which is something that many heavy farms would have thought that wasn't possible, but it just shows with investment in the right areas that these tonnages can be achieved on heavy farms. And we've seen that from previous winners of this section of the competition as well. The cows have an EBI of 145. The milk is sold to Dairy Gold Co-op, and just under 500 kilograms of milk solids were delivered in 2020. To say the least, just when we're on this, the electric fence on this farm has a very good shock. Sean will understand that when I say that to him, as it was part of a prank on that farm. Right, we'll move on from Sean to David Brady, who farms in Stradone, County Cavan. Again, a 100-cow dairy farm in Drumlin territory. This land is also very heavy, and David farms at 5 to 600 feet above sea level. Like Sean, a lot of investment has been put into drainage, improving drainage on the farm, improving soil fertility, and into reseeding. And similar to Sean, the farm grows about 13 or 14 tonnes for the last 2 seasons. David scored particularly well in the soil fertility aspect of this competition, and that has been a tremendous focus on the farm and delivered the goods. However, I suppose the biggest impact that David would say on the farm has been the drainage plan and the drainage program, and it has a large impact on grass production. On one of the fields there in front of you, where you see the drains, on the farm, that field used to grow very little grass and now grows almost 3 times the amount of grass. So it's a gravel mold system of drainage, and it has had a large impact on producing grass on the farm. Finally, I suppose just on David's farm, the cows delivered over 500 kilograms of milk solids to Lakeland Dairies. So now that finishes the dairy section. We're going to move on now to the dry stock section, and I'm going to start with the sheep category and on the farm of Peter McGuinness in Trim, County Meath. So Peter farms with his father Tom, and it's mainly a tillage and sheep enterprise. There are 800 ewes on this farm, which are mostly Suffolk and Texel cross. Lambing begins in mid-March and is mostly outdoor. All lambs are sold by mid-October, which is very impressive, with over 90% or 95% of the farm strapped for slaughter and a small amount of lambs sold to stores. So the core to this system on this farm is really about keeping the system simple. And that was obvious on the farm and on the day listening to Peter. All right? Very, very grass-focused. About 10% of the farm is reseeded every year. The farm is well infrastructured for grazing for sheep, and lots of temporary electric fences used, but simplicity is the order of the day on this farm. To move on now to the beef side of the house and to Thomas Hogan in Neenah, County Tipperary. This farm is a suckler farm, and it's in 2 blocks on either side of the town of Neenah. Thomas carries about 60 suckler cows, and it's a suckler to store system. Thomas practices his own DIY AI on these continental cross cows, which are mostly limousine and cemental. But the objective is to sell stores and high index replacements. When Thomas took over the farm, his first focus was on improving the nutrient and managing the farm, and in particular soil fertility. After achieving good success in that, the farm is now very well infrastructured, and the paddock system is well set up on the farm. More recently, Thomas has invested in a water system on the farm, which has given them more flexibility in terms of grazing. And finally, the icing on the cake then is the reseeding on the farm. And to say the least, the pastures that we saw that were reseeded were superb on the farm. So well done, Thomas. Now to change in terms of enterprise, away from suckler beef production to calf to beef systems. And Pat Collins is our first finalist in this category here, who's based in Castlemartyr in County Cork, who farms with his father Matt, and it's a tillage and beef run farm. So Pat runs the dairy calf to beef system. Most of the beef is 16 to 20 month bull beef, and achieving carcass weights of 330 to 350 kilograms of carcass. This is a high output beef farm, right, and grows lots of grass. There's excellent soil fertility on the farm. The farm has been largely recently reseeded. Most of the farm is reseeded at this stage in the last 3 or 4 years. There is a strong content of clover in the sward, which was evident when the judges visited. And Pat uses the clover to reduce the nitrogen fertilizer input on the farm and to improve the sward quality. Speaking of which, like the weight gains of the bulls in the second season, which are mostly Frisian bulls, is 1.25 kilograms of average daily gain a day. Now, the system of grazing practice in this farm is largely rotational grazing with strip grazing, and animals are moved every 24 to 36 hours. So turnout takes place in mid-February, and as I mentioned, the weight gains are quite impressive in the second season. To say the least, this farm grows a lot of grass. A lot of grass, and that was probably the most impressive part of the farm, as well as the weight gains of the bulls. Finally, then I'm going to move on to our last finalist, and that's JP Hammersley, who's based in Latin in Tipperary. Again, it's a dairy calf to beef system, slightly different to Pat's in that bullocks are finished at 26 to 28 months off grass. There are 45 paddocks on the farm. Again, the farm is well infrastructured as well, and the beef output on the farm is 850 kilograms of live weight per hectare. There's a very, very strong focus on sustainable beef production on this farm, and probably one of the more pronounced in terms of sustainability in the competition. So the farm is in glass. Slurries all spread using low-emission slurry technology. There's lots of protected urea used in the farm. Biodiversity is very broad on the farm, to say the least. And there's a tremendous focus on clover and developing clover in the swards in this farm. JP has purchased his own machine for oversowing on the farm. And the pastures in terms of graze out and all, even though some of them are low input permanent pastures, the graze out was quite good, and JP, to say the least, had the lowest pre-grazing yield of all the finalists at just over 1,150 kilograms of dry matter per hectare. So a very, very strong focus on grass quality in this farm as well. Both the two farms, both Pat and JP, are members of the Green Acres calf to beef program. So that brings us to the end of the snapshot or the overview of the finalists. Before we enter the award ceremony, just a few quick points. We want to thank all those farms who applied and entered for the competition in 2020, which was a difficult year because of restrictions imposed by COVID. But it was important that the competition was completed. So all the farms after today will receive feedback on their application. I want to thank the finalists in particular for enabling us to complete the competition despite the restrictions imposed by COVID on us. But between ourselves, the advisors and the judges, we made this happen. So I want to acknowledge the support of the advisors to the finalists in this competition, and finally to thank my fellow judges in the competition for their commitment in such a difficult period. So despite COVID, it was important that the competition went ahead and to promote excellence in grazing, to recognise the contribution that grass makes to our systems of milk and meat production. And to all the finalists, before we get to the awards, congratulations to all of you on advancing this far in the competition. The competition is stiff, the judges will attest to that, and as Aidan has outlined in terms of what the farmers achieved on average. It's an achievement in itself to get this far. And I suppose now, before we move into the awards, just to let you all know, late last year, we visited the farms to make videos on all the award winners so they could tell their story and give an overview of their farm by video for the award ceremony today. It wasn't easy to make that happen, so thanks to all those who helped make that happen. So we now enter the awards ceremony, and I'd like to take this opportunity to wish all the finalists the best in the year ahead as well. So we'll start with the individual awards. We'll enter into the enterprise awards in a few minutes, but we're going to start with the young farmer category, and I'm going to pass this opportunity to Aidan here to announce the winner of the young farmer category.
Thanks, John. The winner of the Young Farmer category of the Grassland Farmer of the Year Award for 2020 hails from Castleisland in County Kerry. It's David O'Leary.
My name's David O'Leary. I'm farming just outside Castleisland in County Kerry on a 32-hectare milking block. The farm is a lease farm. I began farming in 2018, so I'm new entrant to dairying. It's a 7-year lease, and this is currently the 4th year. I supply milk to Kerry agribusiness. In 2020, the cow supplied 450 kilos of milk solids from a relatively young herd. In 2020, the farm grew 14 tonne. There's a variation throughout the farm of heavy soils and some dry land. Behind me is a straight monoculture of Abergain. It grew 20 tonne. I don't have all the farm reseeded. I'm currently in a reseeding program. Over the last 3 years, I've reseeded 35% of the farm. I walk the farm on a weekly basis. Last year, in 2020, I did over 40 farm walks. I do this because it allows me to budget weekly. I use Pasture-Based Ireland to input the data. I do this because it'll show me annual tonnage and identify paddocks that need to be skipped over for bales. It also allows me to identify paddocks that are at 1,400 covers that are suitable for grazing. The biggest advantage for me of doing grass walks is that it'll allow me to grow more grass from less fertiliser. Grazing infrastructure here is very important. There's a central roadway running through the farm. Over the last 4 years, I've put in multiple spur roadways to gain extra grazings throughout the year. I'm 3 to 4 years into my farming journey. I'm a member of many discussion groups. I'd like to thank the discussion group members that have given me help over the last few years. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I think that going to discussion groups that you learn something new every day.
So well done, David. Now we move on to the heavy soils disadvantaged land category, and the winner of this section of the competition is Sean Barry from Pallasgreen, County Limerick. Well done, Sean, and well done to your father, Pat, and well done to all the family.
Hi, my name is Sean Barry from Pallasgreen, County Limerick. I'm here on a family farm with my father, Pat, my mother, Kate, and my wife, Kate. We're milking 70 cows here. We supply Dairy Gold Co-op. We averaged around 490 kilos of milk solids per cow. The farm here is split into 3 different sections. It's very wet as well in parts of it. In 2019, we grew almost 14 tonnes of grass, and in 2020, we done 13.7 tonnes of grass. I walk the farm here from the 1st of February till the 1st of December and get in about 40 walks a year. I walk the farm because you have to have grass right for cows. If you don't have grass right for cows, you're not going anywhere. I use the Pasture-Based app for when I'm walking around and doing my grass cover, and first thing I look at is the wage to see what way things are going. A lot of reseeding done. We have 80% of the farm done in the last 4 years, which is a great benefit to us. We started reseeding because we could see the efficiency that the farm would benefit from reseeding and be able to cut back on nitrogen use because of reseeding. Our grazing season has extended a lot because of doing this training and has paid for itself in getting the rotation longer. The reseeding here in the last 3 or 4 years with the grass measuring has improved the bull tank protein from 340 to 360 for the year average. It's a great benefit.
Well done to Sean and the Barry family. Our next awards are for Sustainable Farming category. And this is a hotly contested award, and it goes this year to West Cork, to Dunmanway, to John Galvin. Well done to John.
My name is John Galvin. I farm here in Dunmanway, County Cork. It's a dairy farm with grass-based system. I'm here with my wife Yvonne and our 4 young children. We milked just over 100 cows in this farm in 2020. We delivered 512 kilos of milk solids to Dairy Gold Co-op at 4.8 fat and 3.86 protein. It's a crossbred herd with an EBI of €159. I began farming in 1999, and since then I have operated basic, simple, grass-based system. On average, this farm is growing about 15 tonnes of grass per year. We have 40 grass walks done, and we use our Pasture-Based app to record these measurements on Pasture-Based. I put a lot of effort into managing grass because the more grass our cows can eat, the more profit this farm will make. Grass is our cheapest feed, and the more of it we can grow, the less inputs that have to come in the farm gateway. Start calving here on the last days of January, early February. We're consistently calving over 90% in 6 weeks. So we have a high demand for grass coming to March. So 20 years ago when I started farming here, this farm was index 1s and 2s for P's and K's, and it needed a lot of lime. So we put a plan in place which was to do soil testing every second year and apply P and K and lime as was required. So fixing the soil fertility of this farm has grown more grass in the farm, and particularly in the shoulders of the year. We received this paddock in 2019. We used our pasture-based app to measure our paddocks, our grass grown. This was identified as our lower performing paddock, so we received it.
So we now move to the enterprise categories, and we're going to start with the sheep category. And the winner of the sheep category is Peter McGuinness from Trim, County Meath. Well done, Peter. Well done on running a very simple grass-based system.
My name is Peter McGuinness. I'm farming just outside Trim in County Meath alongside my father Tom. We've got 800 Joes, mainly a Suffolk Texel cross, and we've 75 hectares of a grazing platform here, stocked around about 10.5 ewes to the hectare. So the average farm output in 2020 was 15.5 lambs to the hectare, averaging a live weight of 42 kilos. We also have a beef finishing unit on farm that we're supplying grass silage all year round, and in the summer months of May to September, we take in about 100 Jersey Friesian bulling heifers on a daily rate to eat surplus grass. We're an outdoor lambing flock spread across 20 paddocks on the 75 hectares, and throughout the grazing year we subdivide with temporary fencing. So we begin lambing in mid-March, all outdoors, and we aim for all lambs gone by mid-October when the sheep go out to the ram. In 2020, 96% of the lambs were killed by the 30th of September, and the remaining 4% were sold as store lambs in the mart in early October. So in 2020, achieving an average of 6 grazings per paddock, the farm grew just under 14 tonnes of dry matter per hectare, and I walked the farm 33 times throughout the grazing season to assess the supply needed throughout the year. I walk the farm on a weekly basis throughout the grazing season to assess supply and make sure that there's both quality and quantity for the sheep throughout the year, to make the best quality silage that can be possibly made, and to overall run the place in a more efficient way when and when not to spread fertiliser. And I've seen through measuring grass on a weekly basis that figures don't lie, so the decision of where to go next or where to skip is made much easier. So in 2019 I joined the Grass 10 programme and bought a plate meter the same year, and also uploaded all my results to pasture base throughout the year, and it's definitely improved the grass quality and the amount of grass that we've grown throughout the year with the tools supplied by pasture base. With the help of Dad and the routes that he's put down and the Grass 10 course, it's really helped the overall grassland management in the entire farm.
Congratulations to Peter. The next category is arguably one of the most fiercely contested awards. It's a dairy category. The winner this year is milking 70 cows. Again, is from West Cork, milking 70 cows. It's Caroline Walsh. Congratulations to Caroline.
My name is Caroline Walsh and I'm a dairy farmer in Ballinascarty, County Cork. I farm here with my husband Joe, and we have 5 children, Caitlin, Daniel, Leanne, Connor and Louise. We milked 70 cows in 2020 and the cows delivered 515 kilos of milk solids to Lissavard Co-op. The herd EBI is 176. I began farming in my own right in 2009. We're a grass-based system. The farm grew 16 tonne in 2019. We achieved over 10 grazings per paddock for the year. I walked the farm about 40 times during the grazing season, mostly for a bit of therapy. The rest is to measure the grass and see where the cows are going for the next 4 or 5 days and try and make a plan. So every December we soil sample, and from the soil samples we do the best that we can to correct the pH and the P and K imbalances on the farm. When we started here in 2013, the lime requirements were high and the P's and K requirements were high, so we're kind of coming to a place where lime requirements are now low and the P's and K's are adequate in the farm for grass growth. The main reason for reseeding on the farm is to bring up the productivity of each paddock. I suppose from grass measuring, I can see in the annual tonnage how much each paddock grows. If there's 3 ton of a difference, then the bottom paddock needs to come out. Some paddocks have clover here on the farm, and my ambition for clover is to reduce the amount of chemical nitrogen spread on the farm. On this farm, we put an awful lot of effort into managing grass, especially grass measuring. I can plan 4 or 5 days in advance. If there's swimming Tuesday evening at 4 o'clock and there's GA at 6 o'clock, everybody needs to know where paddock 10 is. Caitlin gets off the bus, go and get the cows. Cows are turned around in 3/4 of an hour. Grass measuring helps me do that.
So we now enter the beef production categories, and there are 2 categories here. There's the suckler beef production and non-suckling. So I'm going to start with the non-suckling category, and the winner of the beef production category in non-suckling is Pat Collins from Castlemartyr in County Cork. Well done, Pat.
I'm Pat Collins and I'm farming here in Castlemartyr in East Cork alongside my father Matt. We have tillage and beef enterprise. On the beef side of it, we finish bulls under 16 months and under 20 months and Angus heifers off of grass in 19 months. The average output of the farm is over 2,000 kilos per hectare. We kill the 16-month bulls at about 590 kilos, the 20-month bulls at 640, and we're aiming for about 510 kilos for the Angus heifers. The farm grew over 15 tonne on average in 2020. I walked the farm over 30 times a year to assess growth and ground conditions. We reseeded this part of the farm in 2017. The soil fertility on this block is very good, and when reseeding it, we added clover to the mix. I walk the farm regularly because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Knowing what you have in front of you and knowing the weather that is coming helps you ensure that the right decisions are made. I put in a lot of effort into managing the grass because every kg put on the grass is a kilo less to be put on in the shed. With the production systems we have, it's vital that animals are grazing the correct covers all the time. Once the bulls settle down, we move them every day, a day and a half. The farm is set up with a roadway down the centre with paddocks to the left and right. We use temporary fence with a good shock to set up paddocks. The average daily gain of bulls at grass in 2020 was 1.25 kilos per day. For us, grass is about getting as much cheap weight gain as we can by getting as much grazed grass into the diet as possible.
The next award is for suckler beef production. And the winner here is Thomas Hogan from Nina in County Tipperary. Thomas runs a suckler cow herd and he sells the progeny as stores. Well done to Thomas.
My name is Thomas Hogan. I'm a beef farmer here based in Nina. I run a continental suckler herd along with my wife Sally and our daughter Lucy. I started farming here in 2012. At the time, I decided to mainly focus on grass production and utilisation. I implemented a nutrient plan, which was firstly going with lime and then topping up with P and K. In 2020, the farm grew 12 tonne of dry matter per hectare and achieved six grazings per paddock. I walked the farm 35 times during the grazing season to assess grass quality and supply. We're here in the main grazing block, roughly around 66 acres. The farm is divided into 10 permanent sections, and which can be subdivided into 22 temporary sections. Last year in 2019, installed new water trucks, which makes subdividing the paddocks easier. We have a roadway set up, which makes it easier to run in the animals, cows, for AI. The cows are mainly limousine and cemental crosses. The majority are AI'd to maternal AI bulls. The average cow index is €99 per cow. With the in-calf heifers this year, the replacement index is 140. The majority of cows are bred to maternal AI bulls with the aim of producing high genetic heifers. to keep as replacements and to sell their surplus as in-calf heifers. The steers are sold at 18 months of age, approximately weighing between 500 and 550 kilograms. The average beef output last year in 2019 for the farm was 600 kilos a hectare. In 2020, the calves performance, the male calves done an average daily gain of 1.37 and the females an average daily gain of 1.23.
So we now move into the stage of the competition in which we award Grassland Merit Awards. And these awards are for those farmers who the judges recognised as being quite competitive in the competition and maybe were just pipped at the post, but maybe have come a long way in terms of their journey, in terms of grassland production and grass utilisation and sustainability that Aidan outlined earlier on as part of the competition assessment. So there are 3 merit awards here, and the first merit award goes to Noel Hurley for Most Improved Grassland. So well done, Noel, and Noel is from Kildare, County Cork.
My name is Noel Hurley, and I'm a dairy farmer in Kildare in County Cork. I farm with my wife Liz, and we have 3 children in their 20s. Last year I milked 165 cows and delivered 500 kilos of milk solids to Dairy Co-op stocked at 3 cows to the hectare. I put a lot of effort into managing grass because it reduces costs and puts extra money in my pocket. It increases the proportion of grazed grass in the diet, and it ensures that average covers are achieved at critical times. I measure grass 35 to 40 times per year because it takes the guesswork out of grass management. It highlights when I need to react quickly to changing grass supply, and it identifies surpluses and deficits early. The average farm cover was 860 in early December, and I expect the farm cover to increase to over 1,000 kilos on February 1st. Our plan is to have a good supply of early spring grass because the demand for spring grass is high with 80% 6-week calving rate, and getting cows out to grass is worth $2.70 per cow per day. Having cows at grass reduces workload while increasing yield and protein. We carry out reseeding to increase grass production, especially in the spring, and to get higher response to nitrogen, and to introduce more clover into the swaths. This paddock here has the highest cover at 1,200 kilos of dry matter per hectare at the moment in early January. It was closed on the 7th of October. I have a strong focus on fixing soil fertility because I want to maximise the productivity of the soil while also reducing the amount of purchased fertiliser. The cows will start calving at the end of January, and the herd DBI is 125. For us, grass is all about optimising milk production in a low-cost, environmentally sustainable way.
The next Grassland Merit Award for Most Improved Grassland on a Heavy Soil goes to a farm I'm very familiar with in Cavan. It's the farm of David Brady from Stratone, County Cavan. Well done to David.
My name is David Brady. I live in Stratone, County Cavan. I farm here with my wife Rachel and 3 children, Owen 13, Daniel 11 and Kate 6. My parents Brian and Daphne are still heavily involved in the day-to-day running of the farm. I returned home here to the farm in 1997 after spending a year in Ballyhaise Agricultural College. Due to quota constraints, I built a free-range hen house to boost farm income. Both enterprises, dairy and hen enterprises, work well together. I took over the farm fully in 2014. We now milk 100 black and white high EBI Frisian cows. We delivered to the co-op in 2020 520 kilos of solids and 910 kilos of meal per cow. We have a milking platform of 40 hectares, 32 owned and 8 hectares leased, which is split by 2 roads. It's a high farm, 500 feet above sea level, and a typical drumlin farm that exists in Cavan. The land is heavy soil type, and as a result we are continually doing drainage work and reseeding to try and help improve grazing infrastructure, grazability and accessibility. The farm is a very much grass-based system. In 2019 we grew 14 tonnes of dry matter per hectare, and slightly back in 2020 at 13 tonnes of dry matter per hectare. We achieved over 8 grazings per paddock in 2020. I walk the farm 40 times during the year to manage the grass as best possible. Grass measuring helps me budget in the springtime and in the autumn time. And then in the summertime, it helps me to identify surpluses and deficits, and then we ensure that the cows are going to correct covers. In the last 5 years, we've been able to double our net profit through better grassland management.
So we now come to the last award before the main award of the day, and the last Grassland Merit Award is for Sustainable Grassland, and that goes to JP Hammersley in Latin County, Tipperary. So well done, JP.
Hello, my name is JP Hammersley, and I'm a beef farmer in Latin in County Tipperary. I run a calf-to-beef system where we slaughter our cattle at 28 months at a live weight of 660 kgs. But the beef output of the farm is 800 kilos per hectare. The farm is also in the LAS scheme. In 2015, I wanted to do a greater focus on improving the farm, and knew the only way to achieve this was through greater grass management. So what I would have started doing was taking 30 walks at the farm throughout the grazing season. Using pasture base, I was able to make better informed decisions on how the grass was performing on the farm. And this was important to put greater live weight gain onto the cattle during that time. The farm grew 11 tonnes per hectare this year, and this was done by grazing each paddock 6 times throughout the year. This also involved walking the farm 30 times throughout the grazing season. My focus on sustainability is driven around my environmental consciousness, and as a custodian of the land, I want to transfer the land to the next generation in the best possible shape. This is done through environmental initiatives like LAS, where you can see we have wild bird cover here, and we have low input pasture here underneath my feet. And I suppose what we want to do is we want to ensure with the mature trees and hedgerows here on the farm that we protect the biodiversity by good management. We have a strong focus on clover here in the farm. We found that we can produce more grass and use less fertiliser here in the farm. With it, we create a better sward of grass as well with that level of clover in it. For us, grass is the driving force behind a sustainable, profitable beef production system.
So well done, JP, and well deserved. We now come to the main award of the day, the Grassland Farmer of the Year, the overall Grassland Farmer of the Year for 2020. And the chairman of Teagasc, Mr. Noel Hurley, will announce the winner.
Thanks, John. I certainly have the easy part of today. My pleasant duty is to announce the Grass 10 overall winner 2020. And the winner is Caroline Walsh from Ballinascarthy in West Cork. Well done, Caroline.
Thank you very much.
So here I have, what I have here from John is a cheque of €6,000. Congratulations, well done, well earned. We're so proud of you. And that will obviously be sent on to your bank details. But for the purpose of this morning, this is an incredible achievement, Caroline. Tell us for a moment, what does Grass 10 mean to you? What are the key highlights?
I suppose as a small fragmented farmer in West Cork, our land base is tight. There's 5 children, so time is tight. My husband's a contractor, so everything has to run efficiently. So if I can measure grass, I know exactly, I can put up wires for 4 or 5 days beforehand. I know that the cows are fed efficiently, and it just seems to make our life easier here on the farm.
And by the way, I was reading about you at the back end of last year. I do know that you won the 2020 award, the Sustainability Award organised by Carberry. And I do know that it's something that's very important. Running a dairy herd with very high stocking density on the grazing platform. What were the key highlights that awarded you that Sustainability Award?
I think it was the ability to grow grass and less concentrates being fed per head per cow, so I suppose our profit margin was good. All the land was highly utilised, and the cows, we're very proud of the cows that we have. We're a family-run farm, and I think Carberry likes to have that picture going forward.
So winning the West Cork Sustainability Award, I would regard that as, in football parlance, as a kind of the West Cork regional final. Now you've won the All-Ireland, you're bringing the Sam Maguire to Ballinascarthy. What will be the key highlights for you? What will you do different or extra for 2021?
I suppose I'll have to stay grass measuring anyway, which will keep me busy every week. The children are nearly trained up on it. I think one thing is these competitions are great to show the children that there are things that you can achieve out of your work and your job that you're passionate about, and show that there is a future, and I don't know, if you can be happy at it.
So congratulations, and before I leave you this morning, I do know you're a busy person with 5 children. Your husband is contracting, and that is from early to late. How was homeschooling getting on with you?
The first laptop went to the computer shop to be fixed on Friday, so hopefully this laptop might survive for another couple of days. I think the biggest education they got was we sent 3 cull cows into the mart last Monday week, and they all learned what it meant to gain 100 with the weight. So there was a big roar when the cows made more than 100 with the weight, and that's probably the best education that they've got so far, maybe.
So anyway, well done, Caroline. Congratulations, well done. I think it is, you are an absolutely outstanding leader. You are no stranger to success, but it is great that you have won this national award. It is great for your area. It is great for gender balance, but it is so great that an intensive farmer like you can, busy person, rearing a young family, have time to do this and to showcase to the nation what you can do. And if you can do it, others can do it as well. Congratulations and well done from all of us.
Thank you very much.
Very well done to all of the participants in the Grass 10 final of today. Unfortunately, we can only have one winner, but it is important to say well done to all of the participants. Today is a day where we acknowledge and salute an outstanding group of farmers that are doing an outstanding job of work. Like all competitions need supporters and promoters and sponsors. And I want to join with Padraig Walsh today when he acknowledged the support of FBD Insurance, Allied Irish Banks, Grassland Agro, and the Irish Farmers Journal. It is also important to acknowledge the support of the Department of Agriculture to this programme. And on that note, I think it is important as Chairman of Teagasc that I should acknowledge the commitment of the Minister for Agriculture, Minister McConnell in joining us by webinar earlier today, and indeed for his positive words of encouragement and support. If we were to look at the success and measure the success of Grass 10, how do we do it? But for me, I use 2 very simple examples in the recent past. In December just past, the Grass 10 held a webinar to evaluate the performance of last year, and 440 farmers attended that webinar meeting. Just last week, the very same group had another webinar to evaluate how best to use chemical fertiliser to full advantage for 2021. And 510 farmers attended that webinar one evening just last week. And that is a clear example of the success and the commitment of that farming grouping to do things both from a profitable and sustainable perspective. Every farming enterprise, it is a constant change, and new challenges are inevitable. And indeed for Grass10 are no different. But what is important is that they have set out their challenges and their aspirations for 2021 for the next 4 years. One is moving grassland management out to the wider industry space. And by virtue of doing that, what it means is communicating their findings and their learnings of what they are doing to their wider group of farmers through discussion groups and indeed through media outlets, whether it be Twitter, Facebook or whatever, but it is sharing the successes and their gains to their fellow farmers. Secondly, continuing to use pasture-based Ireland. And earlier today, when Professor Ball was outlining the pasture-based programme for the future, it is important to say that this pasture-based programme certainly has been one of the most successful programmes that Teagasc has launched, and it certainly will be going from strength to strength. But clearly from a Grass10 perspective, they will use pasture-based as a means of fine-tuning it and evaluate its performance as we go on. Thirdly, which is the very important one, is improving nutrient use efficiency on grassland for 2021. And that is something that is hugely important. And the whole focus there is to look at ways and means of reducing chemical nitrogen, obviously with a twin focus of reducing nitrogen, but the aspiration is to grow the same amount of grass. And also, one of their focuses for next year, and indeed for the next 4 years, will be increasing the emphasis and adoption of white clover. This is something that is hugely important from a sustainability point for the future. But I think what is hugely important here is that 30 pilot farms will be set up throughout the country. And those farmers will be used as an example of measuring grass to ensure that, that clover is even positive, but from the point of view of grass yield and also by way of reducing chemical nitrates. What is important for the future from a Teagasc point of view and from a farming point of view is that sustainability is front and centre of what we do. And to me, to many, sustainability can be just a buzzword, but it has very clearly 4 legs to the stool in farming parlance. What I would say, economic, environmental, social, and innovation. And Grass10 farmers are very clear, outstanding exemplars of those 4 pillars. Economic, running very, very successful farms with a clear focus on grass growth and efficiency. Environmental, making sure that farming practices are well within the bounds of best environmental practice. Social, through the means of acknowledging the great fun and camaraderie that can be there amongst farmers, working hard, doing things as they ought to be from a scientific best practice, but at the same time sharing what I would call friendship through that medium as well. And finally, but by no means least, the whole area of innovation, continuing to adapt best practices on your farms and sharing that with the wider farming community. In conclusion, I think it is important to state that today we celebrate, first of all, the outstanding success of Caroline Walsh as being the outstanding exemplar in Ballinascarthy in West Cork, but indeed all participants. But I must acknowledge the huge work that is there from the Teagasc research and advisory team in encouraging and supporting our farmers and also providing them with the latest in technical backup information. Speaking of technical today, I think it is important, before I conclude today event is being done by webinar means, and we have with us today Declan McArdle from Teagasc, And without Declan, today's event would not be possible. So from all of us, I would say, well done to Declan, who is the man behind today. So all that's left for me to say to you, I want to wish you a safe year, a successful and enjoyable year farming. And as the Minister said earlier in his presentation, we look forward to meeting you in person in 2022. Well done to all of you, and best wishes for the new year and beyond.